I've had a very interesting cultural question on Instagram from a user by the name of whatever dude. He asks, I've got a question for you, bro, hoping you can help settle a debate. Thank you for asking me. I feel so flattered. The term Mandarin versus Putonghua, which is spelled Putonghua in English, isn't Mandarin a colonial term? And Guoyu or Putonghua referring to the national language or common speech of China. Obviously, it's understood that there are multiple ethnicities and languages in China, but Putonghua was deliberately developed as the common language. So to say I'm learning Mandarin instead of I'm learning Chinese feels disrespectful and colonial. Am I wrong? Educate me. You are correct that Mandarin or Putonghua was developed as a common language to unite all the Chinese people. Because China is like bigger than Europe. And it was made up of many different cultures speaking different languages. They say dialects, but is it a dialect or is it a language? A lot of people say Cantonese, my mother tongue, is a dialect, but I say it's a language, and it's one of the oldest surviving languages on the planet, much older than the official language, which, as you say, it was created as a simple language to learn to unite all the people of China under one nation. So, getting back to your question, to say I'm learning Mandarin instead of I'm learning Chinese feels disrespectful and colonial. I'm not sure if you're referring to the colonization that the Han Chinese did across China or Western colonialism and imperialism, because Mandarin is an English language term as opposed to Putonghua. Because you can look at it either way, right? And I'm not sure what angle you're taking on this, so I'll try and address both. But I'm actually the worst person to speak to with regards to Western imperialism, because it's not the issue to me that it is to most other people today. So I'm not sensitive about colonialism and language that stems from colonialism. So if you're talking about Mandarin in that respect, being a colonial term or an imperialist term, it's an English language term. The entire English language was a colonial language, an imperialist language, right? So you can say that about any English language term. Similarly, I get attacked all the time for using the word Oriental for precisely that reason. People say it's a colonial term and it's othering and all that. But why is Asian not othering? Why is Oriental othering an Asian? It's describing the same thing, whatever word you use, right? And people say, the concept of Oriental, of Eastern, comes from that colonial imperialist mindset. But you can apply that to the entire English language. We're not going to speak English anymore because we could just use the Chinese terms for everything, not just, Putonghua for Mandarin, but do you know what I mean? Where do you draw the line? I can also see where you're coming from in terms of the Chinese language and how we've taken back certain words to reflect the change of culture. For example, we used to say Peking, but we say Beijing. We used to say Canton, but we say Guangdong. So you could say that the reason those words have changed is because we Brits called Beijing Peking and Guangdong Canton. So the Chinese have de-imperialized those words. But from my perspective as a Hong Konger, and my mom is a Guangdonger, she was born in Guangdong, which is a Cantonese-speaking province of China, and sort of the last stronghold of the Cantonese language in China. From the Cantonese perspective, those words are not English imperial words, but Cantonese words. the reason the English called it Peking, because we called it Peking, Peking. The reason they called it Canton is because we called it Guangdong, Canton. So it was just the English trying to pronounce our Cantonese words. So in taking those back and pronouncing them more like Mandarin speakers, have those words been taken from the Brits or from the Cantonese? So that leads nicely to my other interpretation of your question, which is, are you potentially being culturally insensitive with regard to Chinese colonialism, Han colonialism of the Chinese people? And from that perspective, I would say it's actually preferable to say you're learning Mandarin than to say you're learning Chinese. Because to me, Chinese is not Mandarin. Chinese is Cantonese for me and for millions of people across the planet. Many of us Cantonese speakers don't speak Mandarin or Putonghua. We don't speak it, we don't understand it. And today in Hong Kong, there's pressure to speak Mandarin across the educational sector, across the work sectors, and we don't want to let go of Cantonese because it's the most incredible language on the planet. It's so expressive, it's so full of joy and life, and so rich in metaphor beyond any other language that I can think of. So there is a big resistance movement against accepting that Mandarin is Chinese, that Chinese is Mandarin, that the two are the same. It's no more Chinese than Cantonese is Chinese. If you think back to all the Chinese cinema classics, going back as far as the history of film, you will see that they are Cantonese. They were made in Hong Kong in Cantonese. The Hong Kong film industry is responsible for some of the best cinema of all time. So we're very proud of our culture. Not even talking about the ancient poetry going back thousands of years. So Cantonese has been, until the last 20 odd years, the most widely spoken Chinese dialect or language across the planet. And it's only over the last 20 years that China opened its borders and allowed people to travel freely. So Mandarin is a relatively new language on the global stage. Go to any Chinatown across the world and the established immigrant population there, the Gen X and Boomer population, are Cantonese speakers, not Mandarin speakers. So in final response to your question, if you want to be respectful to all, is to continue saying that you're learning Mandarin or Putonghua or Mandarin Chinese, but not Chinese. And if you're worried about the colonial, as in the imperialist implications of the word Mandarin, that's not a concern to most of us in Hong Kong and China. We don't think about Western imperialism particularly, but a lot of us do think about Chinese imperialism. That said, I fully accept that in today's world, the average person uses Chinese and Mandarin interchangeably, and when they say Chinese, they mean Mandarin. And I'm not going to get offended by it because there's no point. And I don't take offense to inconsequential things that don't matter, like language. But thank you for asking. Again, I really do appreciate that you care. But what are your thoughts? Are there any Chinese people watching this who've got views on this matter, whether you're mainland Chinese or a Hong Konger? And is there anyone else out there who's learning Chinese as a Westerner who's got views on this? Do let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear from you. And as ever, please like this video and do share it, and please follow and subscribe if you're not already doing so. Thank you.